Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Top Rope Takes. I'm Jason, of course, here with my good buddy here, Willie Thrill, and we are coming to you after one of the most hyped episodes of Monday Night Raw ever? Question mark. Definitely in recent memory. Raw's debut on Netflix. They pulled out all the stops. They had all the big names there, and we're gonna break down every segment for you, catch you up on everything you might have missed. But first, I want to check in with my good buddy Will. Will, how you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, we got it was definitely a show last night. I'll
It
tell
was
you
a
what,
show.
it was a show. I'm excited to go through this Netflix. This was like the most like tuned in, focused I've been for a Raw in a really long time. Like I was really paying attention, locked in. It really did feel like almost like a PLE or like a
Hmm.
special event, the way they treated everything. So yeah, I'm excited to jump right into this.
You even heard Triple H talk about and all the wrestlers like it had a WrestleMania feel, and it felt like that way for the fans too, for how much it was being hyped up. The match card certainly was one that if they were on a WrestleMania card, you wouldn't have batted an eye at. We ahead of time, you knew you were going to get the big names like John Cena was going to be there, and they advertised. We had a feeling that like the Undertaker and all those guys might show up, so they put out all the stops to really showcase what they got for the new Netflix crowd, and it was a fun night.
Absolutely. Let's get
All right,
right into it.
so let's go right into it as you said. So the show kicks off with this new video, um, Triple H voicing over the story of WWE. That's this. I personally love this video. He's really going through the history of the company and pro wrestling from the in territory days to the boom through television, the golden era of the '80s. There's moments in there from the Attitude Era, and now basically all leading up to tonight, which is Monday Night Raw on Netflix, which will make Raw the first show ever to be live streamed weekly on Netflix. So a big deal for not only just WWE and pro wrestling, but the entertainment industry as a whole. So we kick it off with that video. Then we get a pretty standard in-ring promo from Triple H at this point. I don't know, any major event. Triple H kicks off the show, talks about the significance of the event, hypes it up, does his DX thing. Are you ready? And then that's followed up by The Rock. And jump
Yes.
in at any point here, Will. But
No, I'm gonna jump in right now because it is funny. Like just to get the Triple H part out of the way, it's funny how he can't help himself now. He really
yeah,
is like the new Vince McMahon in a sense that like he always has to be in the middle of the ring,
mm-hmm.
introducing like any big time moment that's going on for WWE. It's not a bad thing, but it is just the truth of the matter. Like he just has to be in the ring to do his "Are you ready?" Started as a revolution, or
Yeah,
like whatever he
yeah.
has to do. Um,
I loved
so
it
it,
personally. I'm a fan because
yeah,
listen, we
no,
all know
it's not a
Triple H
bad
can't.
thing, but
Yeah,
it's just who Triple H is. Like
right.
you can't deny it. But
The guy's got the
it's
guy
fun.
loves the business more than ever, just as much as everybody else, but he can't wrestle anymore. Like this is how he gets his buzz. So you
Right.
know what? Go off, King. He deserves it.
Yeah. And you could I mean, he was red. Like you could tell he was just like he was all over the place today, I'm sure. So he's probably just happy to be in the ring, do his thing, and get out of there and just run the show. I'm gonna say this. Opening video, awesome. Loved the opening video so much. And when I was watching this entire show, I was watching with two different mindsets. I was like, what if this was the first time I ever watched a
Mm,
Monday Night Raw? If this was like the first time I watched any sort of wrestling, or if I was coming back as a wrestling fan, what would I think of the show? And
mm-hmm.
I'm just going to get that full thought out of the way because as we go segment by segment, I'm going to be giving my thoughts as just a wrestling fan who watches
Yes,
this every single week and has been watching for over a
yes,
decade. But I thought if you were a casual fan watching, like this was a fun show. Like overall, like they really did a good job of like trying to bridge the gap between a casual fan and what's going on with the TV without overloading too much of like all the storylines. You got a little
yes.
bit of everything. You got your Rock appearance, your Cena appearance. You got the celebrity crowds be like, hey, this is it's not just your first time watching. There's a lot of celebrities who are coming to see what is up with this wrestling thing.
Mm-hmm.
And from that perspective, I thought they did a pretty good job. And so I'll give them a thumbs up from like a casual viewer. If the idea was give them like this nice big feel for a show.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know from like casual viewers if they watched this and was like, that was a fun show. I'm going to tune in next week. Or this was a fun show, but like there's nothing to hook me into next week. I'd be curious to know what that perspective is like
Correct. Yeah.
because I think that was the idea. Like, let's give them this big show. Let's not overwhelm them with like stories from the past few weeks from like mid card acts. They
Right.
sprinkled a little bit here and there, but it wasn't the overall feel of the show. The overall feel was just give people big stuff to talk about the
These are the
next week.
highlights. This is what you need to know.
Right.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think it's so interesting in this day and age because of like algorithms and everything. It's so hard to know what's real and what's just being catered for you. But like for example, I was on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, and
Yeah.
obviously my feed was all WWE. One thing that stood out to me is I follow Kay Adams, who you may or
Yes.
may know, and Kay Adams, who's a football reporter. She was there live in Los Angeles in what seemed like her first time ever going to a wrestling show, and now she's like was real into it. She had her show this morning where she was talking about it with AJ Francis from TNA.
Oh, no
Ironic,
way. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
ironically. So like I mean, if that's any sample size of just the casual audience of someone who doesn't really know the product, like I also think in general, going to a WWE live show is a really fun experience compared to also watching it on TV. I mean, they're both great, but like there's such an energy in the room. So I think you're right. I think with the casual audience, it was a home run. They got to see all the big names that they probably recognize, whether or not, you know, like for example, I'm gonna go back to Kay because she's like the classic example. She posted a video of the Undertaker riding around. It's like, what's this guy's story? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, and the comments are just hilarious. And there's like, here's a zombie who became a bike enthusiast, who
Yeah.
became a zombie again, is now a bike enthusiast.
My favorite response because Kay Adams really was like the MVP of
Yeah,
X for me last night because it was just funny seeing that perspective of like someone who really has no idea what's going on. And I remember for like the opening match, it was like, how many people are allowed to be in the ring? Like this is insane. But
yeah,
for my favorite response was she put the Undertaker video up and someone was just like, long deep breath. It all started Thanksgiving Day in 1990.
yeah, literally.
It's just like I was just like, yeah, there's just so much like to be like, what's this guy's deal? And it's like the guy who has 30 plus years of history in
Yeah.
wrestling. It was funny.
But it's such a good sign too, because I saw a lot of discourse around wrestling. I think you're going to see more of it in the coming days. I really think it can't be understated. Like, I know it felt very corporate at times and very like repetitive. Like we're on Netflix and it's such a big deal. I think it really is a big deal of how many people this is going to expose the wrestling to. Not just people who have never heard of wrestling, because I think that's a very small percentage, but what it's really going to do is it's going to open their eyes to people who have heard of wrestling and haven't watched it forever. When AEW came in 2019, one of the big talking points was, what's this going to do for the lapsed fan? Like, and I think that's what Netflix is going to do in 2025. I think it's really going to open because it's so easy now, right? Because it's on demand. You don't have to have cable. If you're looking for something to watch, Raw is going to be on your home screen, and you're gonna be like, oh, I used to watch this as a kid. Let's just see what it's about. And it's that easy nowadays. The access and the amount of people who have it, I think, is invaluable. So I'm really excited for the coming era. And on top of all of that, Will, we can't make it. We have to bring this point out. The product's actually good. Like it's certainly we're gonna have our opinions on how it could be better, but let's not forget this is not the Vince McMahon 2019 era. Like this is actually stuff that if you enjoy pro wrestling, like it makes sense. There are good characters. There's some good matches. It's cohesive. Like we're not tuning into Roman Reigns getting poured on like a can of dog food on his head. Like it's gimmicky, yes, because that's just what wrestling is. But it is entertaining and quality, and I think that's important to retaining viewers.
Yes, and I will say like yes, the product is better. There is going to be a point though when we got to stop looking at the Vince McMahon era as like a litmus test for how good things are because ultimately there's going to be years that pile up and you're going to have to start judging this as like a good wrestling show with the potential to be an amazing wrestling show.
Yeah,
And I do think with that being said, as we get into the show, there were a lot of things they did on the show that really did rub me the wrong way and I think they're better than some of the stuff that they did
for sure.
across this show. So I got my casual view out of the way. Home run, completely the right thing to do if your goal was to try to hook in a casual view for next week. And then next week you could start to roll out,
Mhm.
some more uh, exposition about what's going on in WWE. I think they did a good job of setting that up for next week. I'm actually really looking forward to next week as a wrestling fan. But for a casual fan, definitely bring them in and then start to do your weekly television. But as a weekly viewer, yeah, there's a lot to say.
Yes. I was watching this show with my buddies who I pretty much had like started watching wrestling with weekly, and again, I think this is the part where we're gonna probably transition to this, but they were like, that was kind of a letdown. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of hype. Like again, like we just said, it was a great show for the casual wrestling fan who was seeing all this stuff for maybe the first time or the first time in a while. But as somebody who does watch the product week to week, you're like, yeah, this is just another episode of Monday Night Raw with a lot of pyro and a lot of cameos and stuff like that. So, what? So let's talk about The Rock, right? So after the Triple H promo, we're looking to see what's going to happen next. The Rock is the first person to come out, and The Rock here gets a massive pop, which we expect because he's the most electrifying man in all of sports entertainment. Well, what a weird promo from The Rock. This felt like I don't think he was the final boss here. I think this was literally the Dwayne Johnson who's on the board at TKO and was really pandering to the Netflix executives in the box and what I could assume would be the TKO people in the front row. Uh, he compliments Cody Rhodes, who's sitting in the crowd with a ticket for some reason, um, for carrying the company in its back for the last year. And I didn't know what to make of this promo. We this adds in the fact that later in the show we see The Rock do some backstage stuff with Cody. Um, and I didn't know what to make of it. He because for the last year, The Rock has been a heel to us. And now he's cutting this babyface promo and he's basically erasing all of the heat he has with Cody Rhodes. Does this the only thing I could read into it was A, this was a big spot and The Rock is going to do his corporate pandering because that's where he is in his career right now. But also, I don't think he's working WrestleMania. And if he is, he's certainly not working with Cody Rhodes. Um, what did you take anything else from
No, he's definitely. I did not see this as him working at WrestleMania. Yeah, this was at first when he was doing the pandering. I was like, okay, this is clearly not final boss Dwayne Johnson, but there is something big brained about doing the pandering stuff if you wanted to go back to the final boss.
that?
Like he could easily transition to that. The thing that really rubbed me the wrong way about this promo was the stuff with Cody. That was not necessary at
Yes.
all. I thought that was horrible. I thought Cody laughing off the Mama Rhodes thing was like really corny. It just felt so off for what they set up post WrestleMania. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they have to, if he is going to come back at some point, that is a match they have to do. Or they have
Mm-hmm.
to at least explain the whole thing of The Rock putting something in Cody's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they never pay that off, then it already is a bad, like, that's the first bad omen of the Triple H era, is like setting up something and not paying it off later.
Yeah.
I hope that, and I just, it really feels like it just leaves a bad taste when The Rock comes back as a babyface and starts to undo all of his final boss stuff because I think in his head he's like, okay, at this time last year, people just wanted to see Cody more than The Rock. But
Right.
that doesn't mean The Rock is a bad guy full time. And my thing is you just get so much more steam out of having Rock as a bad guy at this point in his career than having him do the casual babyface stuff. He's way more entertaining. If he's
Mm-hmm.
worried about the optics and people booing or cheering him, he's gonna get cheered by some portion of the crowd if he's a bad guy. And
Right.
on a grander scale, yeah, people are booing him, but they appreciate him for having the foresight of knowing what's right in the WWE universe.
Right.
It's not like we actually would appreciate him more and like him more uh on like a wider scale if he did just go all in on the final boss thing. It makes me not actually like him as a person if he tries to be this good guy, righteous final boss character because we all know he's a boss in
Yeah.
WWE. He's like, a part owner or I forget what his official title is, but he's a big part of WWE.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was not good. I thought it was weird having Cody in the crowd just as a general thing for him to just pop up. He's like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
thank Cody Rhodes. And then they cut to Cody Rhodes, like no big entrance,
Yeah.
none of
Nothing.
that. So yeah, this was a weird way to start the show. Uh, I didn't like this content, and I do think this is just means no Rock at Mania. And also, like, what he has to go back to the final boss bad guy character. I cannot see him succeeding as a good guy, but we'll get in more into that as we talk about the next match because
I
this
mean,
is the only
yeah,
appearance he has through the night.
that's true. We do see him again, but this is a tale as old as time. Like you cannot be like literally the final boss in character and in real life and be the good guy. You just can't. It doesn't work. That's not how stories work. No one is rooting for the company who's making millions and billions of dollars. Like that's why Vince McMahon is the greatest heel of all time because it was reality mixed with fiction, and he is to a lesser degree the Vince McMahon of 2025. Um, I think Triple H straddles that line really well because for some reason Triple H comes off as like even though he has a lot of control like that, he doesn't come across as um, authoritarian as The Rock is coming across right now. And maybe it's the meddling that really, like the perceived meddling at least, that really does it for us. I saw someone on Twitter write this, and I forget who it was, so I apologize. I can't give you credit. But they said it's very possible with this being obviously the first episode on Netflix, a very casual audience. They didn't want to explain why The Rock was being booed, or like they wanted for the casual audience wanting to cheer The Rock. And that's kind of maybe like something as to why they went in that direction. But either way, like we said, like you're kind of throwing away everything that the people who have been watching for the last year, you're kind of throwing away everything that they've invested in with the Rock Cody stuff. So that was just a weird way to do it all.
Yeah, and I thought before Rock even said a word in the ring, I thought Pat McAfee did a pretty good job of explaining all that. Like you know him as this guy,
Mm,
Terramana,
mm,
Zoa, all the like the entrepreneur. You know him from Moana, or like you know him as a big movie star. But in this world, in this universe, he's the final boss.
mm.
And what he says goes. I forgot that's like me paraphrasing what Pat McAfee
Yes.
said. But I thought that one thing, I was like, okay, Pat McAfee laid it out. Like you might know him as this guy, that guy, whatever. But here he's the final boss. And that he could have kind of, in that promo, been able to smoothly transition from the pandering
Yeah.
to doing something where he was more the final boss. I even thought when he made the pause, when he said, if you smell, and kind of
Yeah.
left the big pause, he was going to completely, even then, I was still like, please turn it on him. Please be
Yeah.
like, actually, what the final boss is cooked, or like
Mm,
just do something that makes me think, okay, this character still exists in the
yeah.
WWE universe. Now, you made a good point about the Triple H thing. I think there's a few things that help with Triple H's case. One, he's not like an on-screen character in the sense that one, he definitely isn't going to wrestle. So you don't like expect whenever he's on screen, you don't expect it to lead into
A
a
match.
program with
Yeah.
a wrestler. Like when he did that thing with Randy Orton, I was
Mm,
never like, okay, well now it's Triple H and Randy Orton at
mm,
WrestleMania. That would be horrible, but
yeah.
so that helps. And I also think him playing like a more neutral authority figure character helps because it's not like, he's just being Triple H, but we know it's not going to stem from anything more than him just laying down the law, and people respect that because he's Triple H.
Yeah.
So, whereas Rock, it feels like he inserts himself as being like, hey, I'm this good guy, come cheer me.
Hmm.
And, people will do it because he's The Rock and they love him. But then once the energy dies down in the arena and you go online, people are like, what the hell
Yeah.
is this? What's the actual substance in what The Rock is doing?
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. It comes down to the fact that the fans are not invested in Triple H wrestling again, so they know that there's no real reason to have heat to get like for him to have heat because it's not going to go anywhere. Um, but just to wrap that all up, listen. I love The Rock. I enjoy seeing him every time he's on my TV screen. Face, heel, final boss, corporate stooge. Who cares? Like he's entertaining, but it is quizzical to me that he would just completely drop an entire year's worth of storyline like that because seemingly he's decided that he's not going to be wrestling for the foreseeable future. It's just a weird decision to me. But regardless, after The Rock makes his big promo, we get our first match of the evening, and it is Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa Tribal Combat for the Ulafala to determine who is the real tribal chief here. This felt eerily similar to the Roman Cody WrestleMania 40 match. It almost was like one for one. Uh, like if you didn't see that match, like you just got it right there. That was instead of but with the obviously with the roles reversed with Roman as the good guy. Um, I thought it was the right decision to have Roman Reigns win. I think we both predicted that would happen. Um, I am most interested out of this to determine where Solo Sikoa goes from here because as we talked about it in our Raw preview from last week, he like who knows what he does because now he's got nothing. Does this lead into something with Jacob Fatu? Like I expect, I don't know. There's the Royal Rumble coming up. They very well could just punt on his storylines until after the Royal Rumble, and he's just going to go and he can declare for the Royal Rumble and do nothing like a lot of people are going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. I don't know, but I thought Roman winning was obviously the right call. He's the biggest star, probably the biggest star in the company right now. So he's got to book him strong for the road to WrestleMania. I thought this was the right call. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think Roman winning was definitely the right call, especially for what I think they're going to do later in WrestleMania season. I'm going to give a little quick recap for the match because there was I really did enjoy like the last 5 minutes. Like you said, it was definitely like World Wrestling Entertainment, like the classic stuff you
Mm,
would see. What people expect wrestling to be is what the last moments of this match was. I did like, before we get to that, I liked in the middle of this match when Solo was beating up on Roman
mm,
and was like, I loved you, Roman. And Pat McAfee points out, who does that sound like? It
mm.
sounds like Jacob Fatu. So I do think they are teasing something with Solo and Jacob. I did like that kind of mirroring of like Solo was once the enforcer to
Yeah,
Roman, and now this is what Solo's become leading to this match. Um, Roman's power bombing throw Solo through the table was great, and I did think Jacob Fatu is just such a pro. When he
mm,
comes into the ring after Tamataga pulls out the ref,
mm,
there's a table in front of him, and he was supposed to super kick Roman clearly, but
mm.
instead he sees like he's gonna trip over the table, so he just gives Roman a giant smack and then goes to the other side of the ring and then hits the super kick. Just like the small little things, it's like this guy
He
clearly
gets
knows what
it.
he's doing, and he's only a year into WWE, and he's just already has that like heads up maneuvering
Mm,
through situations like that. Sammy and Jimmy come out, which I thought was fun. Sammy, that's classic like WWE having the entrance music hit. Everyone loves his song, so
yeah,
having him come to the save. And I thought personally, and then they also second ref running down was like Charles Robinson
yeah,
WrestleMania 24. It just gave me
yeah.
flashbacks. But when Kevin Owens came out of nowhere and hit the stunner, there was a part of me that was like, oh my God, Solo's going to win. And it could lead
Yes,
to something with Kevin Owens. Like, I thought it would do more for Kevin Owens and his
mm,
character if he cost Roman the
agreed.
Ulafala. And I thought that was a big moment. But then you get the Cody entrance coming out and, uh, you know,
From that point
brawling
on, we
with
knew what
Kevin
it
Owens.
was.
Yeah, exactly. Once he came out and was brawling with Kevin Owens, then it was clearly like, okay, this is Roman's time. Good little back and forth before Roman finally hits two spears and beats Solo. So I thought that was great. This is where, like, what I said about The Rock before it was really nice compared to what I'm going to say about The Rock right now. Because
Okay.
I literally have in my notes, Roman wins. Here comes Rock in the background. Then in all caps, please turn on Roman, Rocky. Then he does the Ulafala, gives the Ulafala to Rock. I go, damn it, Rock effing sucks. Boo, don't hug. They can't both be over baby faces. This sucks. That's what I put all caps. And what I mean by they can't both be over baby faces is when they're doing this like tribal chief stuff, it would have possibly, if they were gonna do it last year, they had a clear heel in Roman and a clear face in The Rock.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been a mistake, but at least there's a dynamic there.
Hmm.
If they are going to eventually at some point do Roman and Rock, you're going to have to decide who's the face, who's the heel. And right now, with the reaction Roman got throughout this match, it cannot be Roman. You can't have Roman go back to being a heel. And
I
The Rock
agree.
did such a phenomenal job last year as being the final boss. And we just laid out why he's a way better heel than he would be a babyface. It just, it doesn't make any sense. Like they have to go back to him being the final boss. They cannot
Yeah.
have him be this corporate suck up good guy. It just does not make any sense fundamentally for The Rock to be that character. it makes sense for him as a person to be that way, but not as a character in
Mhm.
WWE. He just needs to be the final boss. And this whole thing rubbed me the wrong way because I was like, they cannot be two good guys running roughshod over WWE. It's just not going to work.
Mhm.
Have The Rock at some point, if you're going to do this match, clearly not at WrestleMania, but if Rock comes back, he needs to turn on Roman.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be great if they did it here, but maybe they didn't want to do it here because they know they're not going to have Rock at WrestleMania. So save that for down the line. I'm not going to be fully down on it until I know for sure if Rock comes back as a week to week character as a good guy. That to me would be like, okay, nail in the coffin. This is horrible. But for this one episode, I did not like this Rock, and I hope we never see. I hope they retcon this immediately. I hope they red one this immediately.
Yeah.
So
Well, so you hope no one sees it.
exactly. Like there are no multiple verticals on this one. Like
Yeah, I agree. I
let's
thought
move
the
on.
Cody stuff was bad, and I thought this was equally as bad. And I think again, what it tells you is that there is no immediate plan for The Rock to work with anybody. And again, it goes back to the point we just made, which is that's fine, but it still doesn't justify throwing away the character. Um, yeah, this was weird. I thought for certain we were going to get a rock bottom onto Roman Reigns here when he brought him in for the hug and all that stuff. Why have Rock come out at all then? You know what I mean? Like, what's the point of that? Like, if you're not going to have the turn, like, what does that change? Just other than the Rock acknowledging Roman Reigns, this feels like I think we're going to look back at WrestleMania 40 for as great as it was. I think it was very much a sliding door moment for WWE in the sense that it was great what we got, and I wouldn't change it. But I really think at this point, I think it's more likely than not that we are never going to see The Rock Roman Reigns. I do not believe that we're ever going to get it at this point because it's already been 5 years in the making. We had the opportunity last year and we had a better alternative that we went with. And The Rock's getting older. He's now corporate. And this felt like the final nail in the coffin of like, if they had any intention of doing it, I don't think they'd throw away all this entire year's worth of storyline. I think they're going to move forward with Roman Reigns as a part timer. I think Roman Reigns is going to be into the spot of the guy who comes back occasionally and works with the current superstars. And I think The Rock is done. Um, I think you're going to see The Rock in the same vein. You're going to see John Cena and The Undertaker and all these other guys will come in for the big shows and get a cheap pop and cut a promo. I would not be surprised if The Rock's match with Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, this past WrestleMania, the tag match, was his last match. That's what I read into all this.
Wow. Okay. I see. I don't know if I fully agree with that. I still do believe because he's just so tied in with WWE at this point, he will have one final singles match. I don't know when it's going to be. It's clearly not this year's WrestleMania. I could really see them doing Rock and Roman at next year's WrestleMania, if I'm being completely honest.
Mm,
But it was funny. I feel like now it's my time to whip out this top rope take because I had this on a potential predictions video we're going to do. Unfortunately, got
mm,
canned, but I'm going to throw out one of my predictions that I had on that 2025 predictions list. And that was if they really did want to switch this up in a way that would really work, in a way that no one would truly see coming, is if you have him miss out on WrestleMania season, we don't see him, for like up
mm-hmm.
to 6 months. Around June, July, whenever the show is, The Rock wins Money in the Bank. I think it would. I
Okay.
think people would not see it coming. I
Yeah.
think it tells. We'll get into the Cena stuff, but I think it's another way to rob Cena out of that opportunity. But we'll get to
Mm-hmm.
that later. Rock wins that, and then cashes in at MetLife and
At
takes the
Summers.
title from Roman because Roman will be in that world title match, maybe even win, and then Rock takes it away from him, and then that's how you set up that match come WrestleMania season.
What is The Rock's motivation for wanting the Money in the Bank,
Oh, dude, that's the thing is like that would
though?
be the complete flip. Is that like he's the good guy, he's playing up, he's pandering, but really deep down, he wants to be the final boss, the top guy. He wants to own everything. and it's still deep down has rubbed him the wrong way that Cody took away that opportunity and
Hmm.
that he didn't get his match with Roman. So
Hmm.
either you could either do, hey, he takes away the title from Roman, or you could have him take the title away from Cody. I think it sets up both with
Hmm.
him being like this kind of fake corporate suck up guy
Hmm.
here. And then for him to completely go 180 and be like, no, I'm really a two-faced son of a gun, and
Yeah.
I'm going to take the title from you because I just care about myself, and that's all that
Yeah.
matters. As we'll see in a later segment, which I thought was baffling, but we'll get
Yeah.
into it.
Let's set the record straight too. There's nothing stopping WWE or The Rock from going back to being a heel. All it takes is just one more segment, and then he's back. I
Yeah.
just again, I think our point is why throw it away for one night, and at least what it seems like for a one night thing. So that's an interesting take. I think it'd be funnier if the final boss character just like decided to put himself in a championship match because he can. Like he doesn't even need the money in the bank. That's just what he's doing now. So I don't know.
But I think
It's
I do agree with that. It would be funny, but I do think it would also be like it would be his heel way of being like, I did it fair and square. I won
right.
this money in the bank. I earned this
Yeah.
opportunity and I cashed in and fair and square. I won the title. But
Mm-hmm.
people would know like it's BS because I see him winning money in the bank similar to like how Brock Lesnar won, where he would
Yes.
like Cena would be fingertips away. He would be about to win. And then the music hits. He comes to the ring, knocks over Cena, rock bottom, climbs up the
Mm-hmm.
ladder, wins.
Yeah.
But again, that's a super like I don't really like truly think that's going to happen. But if I were to go super bold, I think it would be a fun, entertaining way for him to turn heel again and win the championship leading
Yeah.
into WrestleMania season.
All right. So any other thoughts on the Roman solo of it all?
I mean, I think does this mean Roman? Oh, I had an idea for Solo. Like if you
Okay.
wanted to set up Solo at Mania with Batu, I think you do that in the Rumble. I think
Yeah.
you could have a spot where they have like the new bloodline in like the beginning of the Rumble kind of take over, like
Mm-hmm.
the Brock Lesnar spot or the worst version, which was the new Nexus spot in like 2011, where there's
Mm-hmm.
like a couple of guys that come out, they eliminate them. Roman comes out, kind of eliminates Tonga Loa, leaves Solo, Jacob, and Roman. Jacob looks like he's going to eliminate Roman. Roman ducks. Jacob eliminates Solo.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way you get Roman and Jacob one on one, which I think people would love to see. But you also get Solo angry and leads into Jacob Solo for
Yeah.
WrestleMania.
I think you can do a lot of rehab for Solo's character in the Rumble if he has a really strong performance. Even if he doesn't win, if you book him strong, like I actually think they're going to book Jacob Fatu though. But if you gave that rub to Solo, that could help a lot because he really needs something. And I think why am I interested in watching SmackDown right now? Like I don't know because other than I to see what direction they go in. Also, to bring this up, is Roman Reigns still a SmackDown on SmackDown? Because it feels like he might be coming to Raw.
Yeah, I think Raw is going to be kind of WrestleMania season in
Yeah,
general. It's just going to be kind of like this flowing thing where you get Raw, SmackDown guys, and
yeah.
they're going to slowly over the next few months establish who's a Raw guy, who's a
Mm.
SmackDown guy, and it'll probably be locked in by post WrestleMania.
Yeah. The one thing we do know about Roman Reigns, and I don't think this has been official, but I think context goes to tell you, cover star for 2K25.
Yes, that is a segment they had later. They did tease 2K25. I'm excited about that. They also mentioned his next appearance. It seems like will be on January 27th.
Which
So
I believe my friend looked up is the next Saturday night's main event.
is that right? I thought it'd be on a Monday, 27th.
I can look it up,
Because
but
it's
I'm
January
fairly certain
6th
that's
was
what it
last
said.
night, 6th, 13th, 20th, 27th. I'm pretty sure it's a Monday.
Let me check. Saturday 27th. It is a Monday. Okay, you're
Okay.
right. So it's not Saturday night's main event.
Yeah.
Although that
So,
might be soon afterwards. But either way, so Monday Night Raw. He's like, it'd be great 3 weeks from
yeah,
now. Yeah, I know the perfect time.
of course.
What do we think that's gonna be? Just a celebration of Roman Reigns?
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be him declaring for the Rumble.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
it's
that'll
four
be
days
that.
before the Rumble, so
Right. And that'll be the big, like, last pitch,
yeah,
like, go home thing. Like, I'm going to be in the Rumble and
yeah,
I'm going to get the title that was once mine or whatever he
yeah.
wants to say. Yeah. Let's go through because I think we spent a lot of time on that. We
We
got a
did.
lot more to go through later
Okay.
on Raw. So,
Keep us rolling. What do you want to talk about next?
just real quick, they did like these special guest rundown in between. I'll kind of summarize them
Okay.
quickly. There's only two I really want to talk about, but I thought it was cool that they had Ray in the crowd and he did like an Eddie tribute, and it did pay off later in the night. And it felt like it was a good way to explain to fans like a certain aspect of a story by putting him in this guest spot. So it was like these guest spots on a grand note didn't seem like meaningful. It felt like very UFC when in between
Mm,
fights they cut to these celebrities. But in this case, I thought it worked out really well for a match later on in the night.
okay.
And let's go to John Cena.
All right. John Cena. We get third straight promo. John Cena comes out and he obviously we know the big story here, but he kind of talks about how he acknowledges that everybody wants him to be a 17-time world champion. And they want him to go after the title in his final run here in WWE. But then Cena tells the crowd that he hasn't earned it because it's been 2000 plus days since he's won a match in WWE, which is asinine.
Televised singles match. He did not specify that enough because he literally won last year in a three
Oh,
on three tag
oh, that's true
with awesome.
with R-Truth, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I did look up and like really like it's kind of like a weird like I get what he's going for, but he's lost four singles matches in the past 6 years. His last televised singles win was against Triple H at Greatest Royal Rumble
Wow.
in 2018, and he's only had four other televised singles matches since. He lost to The Fiend in the Firefly
Okay.
Funhouse match.
Yeah.
He lost to Roman at SummerSlam.
Yep.
He lost to Austin Theory, which still is like baffles me to this
Yeah.
day. And then he lost to Solo. And so that's it.
Yes.
And, you know, I feel like he's doing a good job of making it seem like he's on this insane losing streak, but really it's four singles matches that he's lost.
Right. And the solo one we got, the Austin Theory one was made no sense even at the
Yeah.
time. Like I guess well, I don't really want to rehash WrestleMania 39, but like it just that didn't make any sense to me. But Cena's here now, and he basically says like he's got to earn it, and then he has this revelation. Will he's like, wait a minute, I can earn it. I can be champion if he wins the Royal Rumble. So we kind of expected this to be his role in the show, but he does officially declare for the Royal Rumble, and I think he's got a good shot to win it.
Yeah. No, this was, I think, him declaring for the Rumble, thumbs up.
Mhm.
I like that he's in the Rumble. I like, his declaration, like he's not just going in to enter, he's going in to win. Everything else about this was just it wasn't for me. I'm sorry.
No.
Like I love Cena. I'm excited for him to be in the Rumble. But
Mhm.
when he comes out and he's like, guys, did you know we're on Netflix? And I'm like, I just had two other people tell me we're on Netflix. I don't think you have to do this. He's like, let them hear you. And I was like, you're
Yeah.
gonna wear out this crowd.
Yeah.
And then he started talking in this like urban accent that just felt really bizarre to me. He's like, "What's up, fool?" I don't know. He felt like he had that attitude, and I was
Yeah.
like, "This is a little weird." I did like that he threw out some names for people to get excited about, or like that other people were speculating: Drew, Punk, Gunther, Cody, and Logan Paul. I
Yep.
think he's going to face all of them at some point this
Yes.
year.
I think he gave you a spoiler as to what his year looks like.
Right. But he tried to frame it in like interviews afterwards. He's like, oh, these are just what other people are speculating. This
Yeah.
isn't what I think. But I do think most, if not all of those matches are going to happen this year.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I just thought the way he was like, oh, it's you know what, guys, 17, it's not for the car in the cards for me, but but this is wrestling and I could win money in the bank. I could win the elimination chamber. Oh,
Hmm.
wait, I know what I'll do. I'll win. It felt very like Blues Cluesy to me. I don't
Yeah.
know. It
Right.
just felt like very kid show to me.
Hmm.
It reeked of like 2013 Cena when
Or
he
like
did
Dora
that.
the Explorer. He's like, "Do you
Right.
see a way to go to
Yeah,
WrestleMania?"
exactly. So it was, but there's still like an endearing quality to Cena where
Yeah.
like it just works for him. But to me, I was like, yeah, this is not the Cena I want to see. I think he's better when he has someone across from him, which is
Yeah.
why it would have been cool to see him go face to face with someone.
Mhm.
Um, because really they advertised Logan Paul and he was just in the crowd. He was one of the guests in the crowd
Yeah.
and didn't really do anything. So he must whatever he was going to do probably got scrapped. But at some point, whenever he goes face to face, I'm sure we'll see that Cena that's like more visceral and
Yeah.
will really go at someone's throat. So I'm excited for that. This just wasn't that moment. And if I will give another positive, his gear worked out really well with his eyes. I don't know, it's a nice finish. So
Copy. Will
that's my
Smitten.
thoughts. Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, that's a cool little combination
I
scheme.
saw Cena in the post show thing or whatever, kind of basically said that like the merch team's going all out, and every city he's gonna be in, he's got merch that reflects the team's colors, kind of like he did at the start of his career. So they were gonna make cash hand over fist with this last year
Oh
Cena
yeah,
run merch. Uh,
100%.
because I did like the LA Dodgers look to it, because they were in LA, obviously. So that was very cool. But I expect some Kelly Greens if he comes to Philly, which I think they're coming to a SmackDown in March. So get
You
your
think he's
Kelly.
going with that? I was going to ask you what color you think because I think New York, it's clear. I'm getting a blue and orange Cena shirt, but he's also already done that color
Mhm.
before, so he'll have to have a unique spin on it. Um, yeah, I didn't know if he was going to go Kelly Green or if he was going to go like more Philly red or
Could go either way.
maybe Sixers red and
Yeah,
blue, although maybe
I don't
not.
think they want to acknowledge the Sixers right
Yeah,
now.
right. Yeah,
I think
that's
Kelly
fair.
Green's the hot color in Philly right now,
That's
as
fair.
you can
Yeah,
tell by my
yeah.
sweatshirt. um, but either way, yes, I love this stuff from Cena. And agreed. I felt like Cena was kind of, as you mentioned, going in and out of character. Like he was teetering between like real life John Cena who wants to just say whatever he wants to say, and then the Super Cena character and who's kind of like a parody of himself, and then like the edgy Cena who kind of likes to push the envelope a little bit. Like he didn't really know which avenue he was going for. He was just kind of going off the cuff, whatever he wanted to say, and going in and out. But I enjoyed it, man. I love Cena. Cena's the best. I agree he's better when somebody's near him. I also think it was kind of a spoiler that he tried to make not a spoiler. I do think if you had to put money on it right now, by the end of his retirement tour come December, will John Cena hold a WWE championship?
It's tough. It's been the question.
Mm-hmm.
I've really been thinking about it because you really could go either way. And I think that's what I love about this upcoming Cena run is that you really don't know. You really could go either way. But
Mm-hmm.
I would, if I had to put money on it, I would say he wins 17 before the end of the year. I really do think they want him to hold that record. One, because I think eventually someone can overtake 17 if they feel fit
Mm-hmm.
and have it win 18.
A
It's really
certain tribal
tough.
chief.
It could, but he's at 6 right now, so they got to speed that thing up. He's gonna be like
Yeah.
Charlotte Flair in the next few
Mm-hmm.
years, where he's just
Mm-hmm.
winning and losing titles. Um, but with Cena, yeah, I just think you only get one opportunity to do this, and
Yeah.
like it just feels too perfect. Now, I do think he's gonna have to struggle for it. Like I
Yeah.
don't think he's winning the Rumble. I think it, but I want him to be like one of the last ones in the Rumble. I really
Oh,
think
for
he's like
sure.
he's one of the more likely winners. So I want him to be like final two.
I would put money on it right now, a lot of money, that the final two is Cena and Roman.
Okay. You know, well, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, it should be interesting. Cena Roman would be a fun final two.
Mm-hmm.
Uh does that mean you think Roman's winning? All right. Yeah, no, I think that and then him be final two in the chamber would be
Mm-hmm.
fun. I think that idea I threw out there with Money in the Bank would be great if
Mm-hmm.
he was like inches away and then The Rock came out and screwed him. But
Yep.
you could do something like that and insert anyone else that screws
Yeah.
him out of Money in the Bank. Or I like this idea too. He wins Money in the Bank, but fails his cash in
Mm-hmm.
somehow. Actually, I'm not crazy about that, but I do think it's a fun way to like tease, like, oh, this is his opportunity to win the title, and
Mm-hmm.
then he loses, and then ultimately, what I think would be great is if towards the end he won it and then vacated the title. I think
I
that
don't
would be
know.
great. Or if they could do the Danielson thing where he wins the title, has like a defense or two, but then loses and
Yes, I
then
think that's more
gets
likely.
right off. But then it
What's
feels
the
too predictable. That's my only problem with that.
what's the
Like I think
December
you
pay
if
per view?
you the December I don't
Is
know. Is there
it?
one after Survivor Series? Oh, Saturday Night's Main Event. I guess I would
I guess
assume if they're
because
going off
I'm trying to
baseball.
think the venue for his last match. Is it? It's not just
The
going to be like a
Garden.
yeah, but like, is there a show
It's the
booked for that?
Garden. Yeah, Saturday Night's Main Event in the Garden.
Uh,
It
got
makes
it.
sense. I mean, that's where they would do Saturday Night's Main Event most
Mm-hmm.
of the time is in the Garden. So do Saturday Night's Main Event in the Garden. Cena's last match be huge.
Yeah.
But that's just my speculation.
I
It could
mean, we
really
know
go
it's going to be
anywhere.
in December, so
Yeah.
you know, we'll see. I'm excited for this final Cena run. I'm gonna soak it all in. I'm hoping to be at SummerSlam at MetLife to see him one more time. It's going to be a great run, and I think this is starting off on the right foot.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go about it with the Rumble. So I'm looking forward to his appearance in the Rumble. And I think the Rumble this year has a lot of unpredictable winners. It might become more predictable as the weeks go on. But
Yeah,
right now, I really have no idea who's winning.
I think it's unpredictable, but I think there's a short list.
Yeah, but I think if you have at least two names, that's about as good as you're going to get.
I think
I
Cena,
hate the
Roman,
years
Punk.
with I hate the years where it's like there's one winner
Yeah,
and it just feels too predictable. Like when Cody came back, there was only one championship, so I get why it was a little more predictable. But I
mm,
felt like when 2023, even though it was a great Rumble, it just felt like, okay, well, Cody's winning this one. Last
yeah,
year, it was interesting because the Rumble wasn't great, but I did like the end because it really felt like it could be Cody or Punk.
yeah.
So I think having multiple world titles does make it a little more unpredictable as far as who can win. But I
Mm,
think you named it right there. It's Roman, Cena, Punk. Those are the three names that I think are probably
mm.
going to be the
One last final thought about the John Cena breaking this record 17-time world championship. Um, there's two schools of thought for me. The first school of thought would be, what would John Cena want? And I don't think that John Cena, based on everything I've known about him and the interviews I've listened to and all of that, I don't think the John Cena, the person, not the character, wants to win it for the 17th time. I truly do not believe that he cares to hold the title, hold the record. I think he wants to give that spot to the people who are in there week in, week out. I think he knows the perception. He's dealt with that perception, and I think he wants to be in the antithesis of that. He wants to go out and make on great memories, have great matches with people he's never worked with, but he wants to inevitably give the torch to the people that are going to carry it into the future. And I do not think he cares about being the champion. So if we're going strictly off of John Cena calling his shots, I do not think that there's a universe where John Cena goes, and then I want to win the world title. I don't see that happening. However, I think the company wants John Cena to win the world championship because if for no other reason, granted, this is Triple H, so and it's very possible, but like right now, he's tied with Ric Flair. So Triple H and obviously Ric Flair's history is well documented. So I don't think it's necessarily Triple H wanting to get overtake Rick. But I think if you are going to, like you said, you only have one opportunity to do this because I actually don't believe that we're ever going to see someone with 17 world championships again. I just think that's, which, like you said, like who would be the closest? Roman? He hasn't been booked
Charlotte.
that way. But yeah, well, Charlotte for the women. You know what I mean? But the point I'm trying to make is you can have John Cena stand alone as for the record for most world title wins in wrestling history, allegedly. Um, and he's a homegrown guy. You know, he's not Ric Flair, who in that count is X amount of WCW to world titles that were won outside the company. This is a no asterisks on it, a full fledged all 17 WWE championships, and he is the ultimate company guy that was homegrown in their system. And I think that is appealing to the WWE as a company and for their history. Yes, Rick is going to be great. Rick is going to be representative of a greater time. But I think as you move into the future, and they want that mark to be solely WWE, no asterisks. And the way to do that is to give the job.
Yeah, I think that sums it up right there. Is like, it's a great moment for him to have. And I think the company, the way John talks his interviews, it seems like the company overrides what he would want. Like he wants to do, even though what he would want personally might not be to win the world title, it seems like what he truly wants is whatever the company would want because he's just
Yeah.
such a company guy and wants to do whatever the company thinks is best
Mm-hmm.
for their situation. And I think that, like you said, it just seems like it would be a great moment and a great opportunity for him to break that record. The only reason why I say anyone could break this record is because really anyone, if they want to, they
Yes.
could snap their fingers and have anyone win that many world titles. Would it be good television? Would it be good for WWE? Probably not. It would probably feel forced, but they can do that at any point, and it doesn't have to be in the next 5, 10, 20 years. If they
Yeah.
find the right guy, they could easily have him overtake that record. I just
Mm.
think for the time being right now, they want the guy to have the record be John Cena,
Yeah,
not
for
just like
sure.
this tie for John Cena and Ric Flair.
And never say never, especially in pro wrestling when, we know the business is what it is. But, in order to do that, you have to have another John Cena like run at the top. And I think we haven't seen anything like that before or after. And I think we'll be hard pressed to see another guy on top consistently for 20 years. I just, there's a reason that he's so great, and it's because his greatness was so rare. All righty, that's a lot of time on John Cena as well. Let's go through some of the other big matches from this night.
Yeah, we got Liv and Rhea. Do you want to go through that one?
Yeah, let's
Do you
go.
got any thoughts on that? I mean, I'll go through a little bit of this and then you can give
Mm,
your thoughts. Just this is a little nitpicky. I'm just gonna give my nitpicky notes real quick right off the bat.
mm.
Do we like Rhea singing her entrance theme?
It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
I don't want her to come out with like a microphone.
Right, like our truth. I get that. It was just a little thing that's like I'm not gonna split
Mhm.
hairs over it, but it was just something I'm like, she's an intimidating presence. I wouldn't want her just lip singing her song.
I mean, it's a good
That's just me
song.
though. But it is a great song. But that's the thing. There's been so many great songs in wrestling, but I wouldn't want, John Cena lip singing "Time Is Now" on his way to the ring,
Well, I will say this:
even
they've
though it's him
established.
singing the song.
Yeah,
Or
I'll say
HBK singing his song.
that would be hilarious. I'll say this though: they kind of established at this past year's WrestleMania that like Motionless in White like is her favorite band growing up, and she like idolized the singer. So like they've kind of already put it into precedent that like, yeah, I'd sing along to my favorite band too.
Sure. Yeah. And if it works if she wants to do that, I'm not going to
Yeah,
be the one to stop her. But
yeah.
yeah.
I don't care about that.
Match was fun. I like that they brought it at the beginning. Rhea was looking great throughout the whole match. And I thought the way that she would show off her power, kind of ragdolling Liv throughout this
Mhm.
match was great and to some unique offense. Liv kicking out a riptide. As an overall note for this show, I thought there were a lot of kickouts at
Yes.
finishers. I thought there's a point we'll get into a match later where there just shouldn't have been a kick out at a finisher, but it's regardless. Um, Dirty Dom and Raquel obviously get involved. The Oblivion onto a chair for a near fall. That was another one that's like I feel like that one was fine, but at the
Yeah.
same time, like it was maybe a little much.
I think the story there was that's how she beat her at SummerSlam, right?
Right. And then you want to do that. So I get that. In a vacuum, great
Mhm.
spot on this show. Felt like maybe a bit of overkill.
Yeah.
Um, this is where I thought this was like a great detail. When they did the Ray tribute to Eddie, if you were like let's say it was your first time watching wrestling, you have Ray do the tribute to Eddie. And then in this match, Liv does the Three Amigos and the Frog Splash. And Michael Cole explains so well, like, this isn't a tribute to Eddie Guerrero. She's mocking the legacy because Dirty Dominic Mysterio also does this. And it's to mock the legacy
Mhm.
of not only his father, but Eddie Guerrero, who is so close to him.
Right.
Um, Rhea does a counter to the second Oblivion, hits a second, third Riptide, gets the win. I hope this is it.
I think it is.
I hope this is it for Liv and Rhea. Dom, I thought was awesome at the end when he opened up for a hug. Like, okay, you got the title now. Like, let's get back
Yeah.
together. Rhea low blows, riptides. I thought that's why I have faith that this is it for the time being between Rhea and Liv, is because that felt like the big payoff is the low blow and the
Yeah.
riptide to Dominic. Um, there was a point when she was celebrating and Cole was talking about Dominic not being able to celebrate with Liv.
Mhm.
And Cole just asked Pat, what if Dominic breeds? And I'm like, can we not? Like, it just felt like such an out of pocket
I
comment for like Rhea's title celebration.
did not
What
catch
if
that.
Dominic breeds? If I was like, what is Cole on right now? Like, this
I
is
just heard
insane.
that somewhere, and he's like, "Let me slip this in and be
I'm just like,
cool."
what? Like, why are we like, okay, sure. Like, if that's what you're thinking, Rhea celebrates, and I'm thinking, okay, this is where Becky comes out. This is where Charlotte
Mhm.
comes out, whatever. And the Undertaker's gong hits, and I'm like,
This
what?
felt.
What is going on here? And then American Badass hits.
Mm,
Rides around in the motorcycle. I thought overall cool moment with him celebrating with Rhea Ripley doing the Brothers of Destruction,
mhm.
fist in the air. But when the gong hit, I'm like, what is going on? Like, I was just like, what could this possibly even mean?
I'm gonna be
So
honest here. I love the Undertaker. I hated this. This made no sense
yeah, it was
whatsoever.
out of nowhere.
This made no sense whatsoever. This was the definition of a cheap pop. Of like,
Yeah.
well, Undertaker's here. We got to fit him in somewhere. I guess have him come out and embrace Rhea, like
Well,
drive
that was
around, do
when
a
he
lap.
first came out. When he first came out, when he came out on the bike and just passed Rhea,
Mhm.
I was on the same page as you. I'm like, this is awful. Like, are we transitioning to another segment just randomly? But
Yeah,
at least him celebrating with Rhea did some sort of passing of the torch
yeah.
moment. I still thought it was bizarre, but at
Mhm.
least he had the moment with Rhea instead of just completely blowing her off and being like, "Look at me and my motorcycle."
Yeah. Also, a
You know,
couple notes for this. One,
yeah.
Undertaker. I don't know if he did this back in 2003 too, but he looks so silly when he's riding around on the bike, but he's like using his feet to like move the,
Yeah.
move the
It's like
bike.
when you're like first learning how to ride a bike and you're like
Yeah.
trying to get on the pedals and you still are trying to a
Like, he's
little
trying to be a
weary. Yeah.
badass, but he's like walking the bike
Yeah.
awkwardly. Like, I just think that's such an awkward look. Um, and the other thing I wanted to say too is like this felt so out of place and so out of nowhere, and it didn't really like it because the only thing I can really equate this to is I was actually at the Raw in Philly for the WrestleMania for the Raw's 30th anniversary show, I think,
Mhm.
and where he came out and did the same thing but with Bray Wyatt, and that made sense because it was from one spooky character to another spooky character, and that was a passing of the torch moment. What do the Undertaker and Rhea Ripley have in common other than their undying love for eyeliner? I don't see anything. So it was just a weird placement in the show.
They're both gothic in a sense.
Yeah.
Just very different ends of the spectrum, I feel like. But yeah, I felt like it would have been maybe more effective if he had like the Undertaker gear on and did that
Mm,
version of the Undertaker with Rhea.
yeah.
But since he doesn't want to do that anymore, I guess this was like their way out of it.
Mm.
Again, weird little segment. I would have much preferred if it was Becky or Charlotte, but it was something.
Even for like the casual fan, it's like, oh my god, that's the Undertaker. Why is he here? And then the super fan next to him has to be like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, that was good. But yeah, congrats to Rhea Ripley regaining the women's world title. Well deserved. She now officially can get the rocket strapped back to her for WrestleMania season, where we expect her to be against who?
Um, so my idea collapsed immediately when Tiffany decided to cash
Yeah.
in on the day we uploaded our Netflix predictions, right? Because I thought maybe I knew she was going to cash in soon, but I went for the big swerve. I was like, well, she's going to cash in on Rhea. No one's going to see it coming. That's your big program. But I am glad that they stuck with the storyline, gave her the women's title. Uh, as far as who Rhea faces, I still think it's probably Becky or Charlotte. I think a fun one that I heard recently was AJ Lee. If
Oh,
she
interesting.
makes a surprise return at the Rumble and
Get into
wins,
that.
that seems like a bit of a stretch, but obviously rocking the CM Punk shirt, I
Yeah.
would go crazy for that. But
I
yeah.
heard one that I'm not a huge fan of, but I feel like is most realistic. I heard that they're going to do her in EO Sky, which would be fine, I guess, but I just am not into it on a character level.
On a character level, and I think the build would kind of be whatever. I think the match would be awesome. I
Yeah.
think if you give them like a WrestleMania match and you give them time, like
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like if you can't get Becky or Charlotte in there,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously AJ Lee's too far out, then if you want to go with someone who's consistently on TV, I don't mind EO. Just as far as the build up for WrestleMania would definitely get lost
Yeah.
in the shuffle. Um, yeah, just please don't let it be Liv or Raquel because I
Yeah.
don't need to see that.
As far as where Liv goes from here, I have a pretty not a good. I don't have a clear idea, but I think I have a clear direction. They've been
More than
teasing
I
a lot
have.
of stuff with her and Finn,
Okay.
so I think Liv is going to pull do the same thing she did that Dom did, and I think Liv's going to move on to somebody else in the Judgment Day, and you're going to get a Finn Liv pairing coming soon.
You think, wait, so you think Finn and Liv are going to be together
Mm.
and you're going to have them face what, Dom and Raquel?
See that part I'm not clear on, but
Okay.
I feel very confident that Finn and Liv are going to be paired together soon.
Okay. You think, so was that start Dom's babyface turn or
Yeah,
what is, okay.
I don't know if they should though. He's
Yeah,
so
no,
good
I
as
don't. I thought you said you had an opponent for Liv, and because
Oh,
I genuinely don't. I have no idea where she goes. I think she could easily slot into the like IC title picture
mhm.
if she wanted to be like a kind of I guess a threat
Oh,
or
I
a
do have an
formidable
opponent for Liv,
challenger. Okay.
Becky Lynch.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, sure. You could go back to that. But
Mhm.
that I feel like if you have Becky back, then I would rather her be in a program with Rhea. I don't mind that it would be 2 years in a row. I think it
Yeah,
just makes the most sense for her to be going after a title.
yeah. But either way, good stuff from the women on Raw. Um, Dre, we also had on the show Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre, which was kind of a nothing burger for me. I think the most notable thing from that was the entrance.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna stop you there.
Okay,
What by the way, I also wouldn't mind Liv and AJ Lee if they did want to go that direction.
that'd be
And they
fun.
do have AJ Lee. Before that, we see Adam Pierce backstage
Mm-hmm.
and he gets interrupted by American Made.
Mm.
And Chad Gable says he wants to, you know, break off this rumor that he can't handle luchadors or whatever. I don't know where this started, but
Yeah, I was
apparently
like,
he's made up this whole thing where
I
he
had to
can't go
watch this
against
back.
luchadors. And Adam Pierce is like, "Oh, I got an idea for you." And we saw actually a segment earlier where they kept doing these penta teases, but straight up they just said penta on the
Mm.
graphic. So I do think Gable versus the Mystery Luchador, obviously going to be penta. Good first match for Penta, but I don't love it in the sense that it does slot him immediately into the mid card. It does.
Are we sure it's Penta? Are we sure it's not the returning Sin Cara?
Well, what a swerve that would be.
Yeah, I agree with you about the. I think they're gonna have a hell of a match, but yes, they very much are clearly telling you what the. Okay. To be fair though,
Wait, did you say hell of a match? It's El Generico. I'm locking it in right now. Surprise pick. It's El Generico making his debut for
there you go.
WWE.
Sami Zayn versus El Generico for WrestleMania. Book it.
There you go.
I think this is going to be a great match between Chad Gable and we can only assume Pentagon. Um, but to your point about them immediately putting him in the mid card, I think they need to build him up first before they could do anything more with him. So I think this is where he has to start, regardless of what their future plans are for him. Like you can't like what other option would there be?
Just like a more top tier, I guess, main event guy that could still take a loss. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you want to slot him in, but if you put him in against like I feel like a Sammy
Mm-hmm.
or a Drew or just like someone that kind of establishes him in the
Yeah,
upper tier. But clearly, I mean, obviously, if they're all kind of doing their own things right now, then Gable's not a bad pick.
yeah.
But I also want to see Gable do something more in 2025. And I feel like giving him a loss immediately is kind of like a weird way to start his 2025.
No, I agree, but I'm excited for Pentagon, and then inevitably Ray Phoenix will join him.
Right. And then yeah, I guess that's what they're kind of holding off for. They're gonna get Penta a bunch of wins. He brings in Ray Phoenix. That'll be
Yeah,
their entrance or their opening in the tag division. This was also the segment where we had Rock announce that he was going to be at NXT
yes.
shipping Terramana, chumming it up with Cody Rhodes, and then getting behind the wheel of a car and driving off.
I didn't even
Yeah,
notice
a
that.
lot, a lot of people were talking about this. Like Rock just on TV is like driving under the influence. Like, okay, what a great role
And
model,
you guys
baby
want the
face.
Attitude Era back? Come on, you can't
Yeah.
handle the Attitude Era.
That one segment to me was like it honestly was like, okay, they could turn this around. They could make him a heel again. If they really play this up, that Rock is just this reckless guy who thinks he's a role model, but he's just like a corporate asshole. Like
They give him the whole what was it, Happy Corbin shtick? He's just down on
he's
his
just
luck.
it's got to be a little different than that, but they could do something where he like I think it would be funny. This is definitely not going to happen, but if they had like drunk Rock, like do they just had him in the middle of the ring, you get a sponsorship out of it, you get to
Yeah.
sponsor your tequila, and then he's just like, if you smell
They've got all the liquids. They've got Terramana.
millions.
He's got Prime Energy. He could be drinking some
Well, he's got his own energy, Zoa,
oh
or
right.
whatever. So he's competing. He does not like Logan Paul. So,
We got a new beer company that we'll get to.
oh yeah. But anyway, back to because we definitely got sidetracked.
Yeah.
Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre. It started with Travis Scott coming out to Fiend. And I thought, honestly, they were definitely like playing into the memes because I've seen edits where they have Jey Uso's entrance, but
Mhm,
to Fiend instead of his entrance. So
mhm,
I thought Jey Uso was just going to come out to Fiend. And I thought that would have been actually would have been cooler than what
mhm,
they did, which is just Travis Scott comes out to Fiend and
mhm.
then they do the day one ish song. It was
Yeah.
still fine. I get the psychology behind it. Like you have Travis come out first, but then Jey Uso is really the star, and you have Jey Uso and Travis Scott come down
Mhm.
to Jey Uso's music.
Yeah.
I still think it would have been cooler. Just like that's like the little, I guess, part of me that still is like the one thing I do like about AEW over WWE is they're not afraid to get licensed music.
Yeah.
I feel like WWE could have stepped in big time with their relationship with Travis Scott by giving Jey Uso Fiend in this moment and just having him come out to Fiend
But I think
for
people
the
want
rest of
the
his thing.
Uso song. I think they want his theme to eat to.
I think, but Fiend it literally is like you slot it in and you can eat Fiend, Fiend,
It's not the
Fiend,
same though.
Fiend.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it
Yeah.
would have worked pretty well,
I think
but
the big story
it's
here is that one isn't that I think that's the new theme song for Raw, right? Which is why he was there.
is that what I thought it was a different rap song, but it could be Fiend.
I
If
think
it's
it.
Fiend, that's cool.
I think that's the new intro song for Raw.
Okay.
I don't like that they advertised this originally as a Travis Scott performance because he literally came out and did like nothing,
He didn't perform. He just smoked a blunt.
which was hilarious. I
Yeah, it
loved
was
it.
I
I thought
We're
that
in
was so
LA.
funny. Yeah, even Jay Uso later was like, I think he said like Travis Scott offered it to him, and he was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah.
And Triple H was thankful that he didn't take it. Um, yeah,
I
that
also
was
did
funny.
love Michael Cole in this when he was like he got on the desk with pay. He was like, ah, screw it. I'll get on the desk. Starts eating, and then he's like completely blown up. And then when they actually cut to an ad break, they come back. He's like, well, we got oxygen, folks, and we're back ready to go.
Can we talk
Um,
about the drone and how cool the drone was?
yes, I did have that in my notes. The drone shots were great. I do like that little added
Mm,
touch to
I thought
the
that was so
story.
cool and so fun. There was another line at this moment that I didn't catch, but I saw earlier. Apparently, Pat McAfee said something along the lines of Travis Scott bringing Sage down to the
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he said so. He had a couple of great lines about
Yeah, he
what
did.
Travis Scott brought to the ring, but yeah, no, Pat was definitely he's the one to do that. That's why you have Pat there, is because he's the one who could say that kind of stuff, and it works.
So good, dude.
Yeah,
um, oh man, yeah. And then this match was boring to me. I thought this match was terrible.
it felt like with all the stuff that happened on the show, it was kind of like it felt like the filler match, even though it
Mhm.
was two big stars on Raw. You definitely see the crowd's energy, like they were just given like it was felt like dopamine hit after dopamine hit.
Yeah.
So it felt like this was kind of like a come down from everything, especially at coming off of the Yeats,
Mhm.
the Yeet entrance. Like it felt like they just needed to breathe for a second.
Mhm.
So they were pretty quiet throughout. Jay kicked out of the Claymore, and that's when I drew the line of like, this
Yeah.
is a lot of kicking out of
Unnecessary.
finishers. I thought they could have just molded it into Drew hits that first Claymore. He's cocky about it. He thinks he's got the match won. He kind of slides into the pin, and then you just do the J roll up
Yeah.
from that point. And I felt like that would have worked because he didn't technically kick out of the Claymore, but it was
Yeah.
Jay quickly like catching him off guard, getting the win. But yeah, Jay, I thought it was another good fun win to get the crowd excited or happy. I felt like once I saw how the Roman match went, I was like, all the faces are winning. Like it just felt
Yeah.
like they couldn't have a heel win tonight, and I think that was a good choice.
I have to say this, and this is a controversial take. I do not get Jey Uso. I think he is an entrance, and I think he is a subpar wrestler. I think his matches are consistently below par. Um, like I don't get it. I think he's obviously found something that works for him that I think the kids love. His entrance is great, but in the ring, he is bottom tier in my opinion.
I don't think he's like necessarily that bad, but I think he needs more compelling storylines. And
Yeah.
because have seen him perform, I think you can kind of cover up a poor in ring performance with just compelling stories and good
Mm,
performances leading up to your matches. And I felt like that's what got him over in the first place was all the bloodline stuff and
Mhm.
his ability to perform in those segments. But, you know, if he doesn't have anything compelling, this was more like Drew's story than Jay's story. And that's why the only part, there's part of me that felt like it was weird
Mhm.
for Jay to beat Drew just because I felt like Drew had a lot of momentum in this
Mhm.
storyline and he probably should have won.
Mhm.
But I get the overall point of like, you want people to be happy. You don't want any down moments
Yeah.
in this show. So, and the way they did it, I thought the way that Jay rolled up Drew for the win was a great way for Drew to lose clean while
Yeah.
still having some sort of dignity left or some sort of, you know, still
Yeah.
looked strong throughout the match. So yeah, overall, it was just one of those things where it's like it kind of needed to be this low point for people to catch their breath and get ready for the main event.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I would just like to see more from Jey Uso because he really is like uppercut, super kick, Uso splash, spear, and that's it. He doesn't even have five moves. He's got four.
Yeah.
So
Before we get to what was a notable segment, there was backstage stuff with the New Day.
yeah.
I pulled up on Fluffy, and I think, you know, more Netflix synergy.
Yep.
Fluffy's got a segment, special on Netflix. Advertises
Is
that. It
that
was a
the
good
name of
way
it?
for,
Fluffy's got a special.
I forget what it was called, honestly. It was,
Yeah.
he's got some sort of special.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was a good way for New Day to get on the show, but also be like, oh, they're cutting our time for
Mm.
just more fuel for them to be mad. That's when we also get the Roman backstage stuff. And then we get another guest spot. And I don't know if he's been on the show since. I think he probably has been in the crowd, but we got Stephen Amell jumping
Yeah.
ship. What a traitor. This guy, you know, he was all in, but now he's WWE.
He goes where Cody
Um,
goes.
yeah, exactly. And then we got the Hulk Hogan segment.
Segment of the night, baby.
Yeah,
This is the best.
what did you think of this? Because I'm gonna give my thoughts, but
I thought this was so incredibly tone deaf from the WWE. This was the this was so incredibly tone deaf. Um, and I'll put it out there right now. I think you will not see Hulk Hogan on WWE television for a long time after this. Um, this was kind of like it was funny to me in the vacuum just because of the sheer dichotomy of babyface Hogan selling out his corporate shilling beer
yeah,
and just getting absolutely trounced by the universe. Um, you can make so many arguments as to why it happened. I think clearly all the Hulkamaniacs are not the ones watching right now. I think the elder portion of the audience grew up in the Attitude Era. Um, so I think there's just not as much nostalgia for Hogan anymore as there is for The Rock, Austin, and Taker. Um, so that's certainly part of it. It's just not his people anymore. I think his shtick is worn out, and it's clearly not authentic to him. And that's been showcased more than anything. Is that this is not really Hogan. This is a Hogan like one of the reasons that The Rock and Austin were so successful is because yes, it was their personality turned up to 10, but like it really was like they really are that charismatic. This feels like such like a cloak of like it's the same reason the Undertaker doesn't do the Dead Man anymore, right? It's a new era. You don't do that shit. It doesn't work in 2025. You know, the Undertaker has that like character grandfathered in where people would buy into it because that they love him, but like this feels so worn and tired. Poor Jimmy Hart was out there because I think Jimmy Hart was out there to try and soften the crowd a little bit, but like not even Jimmy Hart could save Hogan from this verbal beating that he took from the LA crowd. And then not for nothing, I think a part of it. It's a part of it. It's something, but it's not everything. A part of it too is obviously his recent political activism and that the fact that we were in LA, which is the opposite of the demographic he was pandering to, I think was certainly a part of it as well. So altogether a perfect storm for the Hulkster here. And but it was hilarious and people are talking about it. So that's what you want from wrestling.
I guess so. I'm just gonna sum up these. I have 4 lines of notes for this, and I'll get into my actual thoughts. This was my thoughts at the time. I went, "Uh oh, here comes Hogan. Let's see how this goes." LOL, booed immediately. This was a bad idea, dot, dot, dot. He can never come back to WWE. It's over, dude. That was
Yeah,
my thought at the time. But then they also used him to advertise Saturday Night's Main Event, which does, and he has this, they do have like this deal with Real American
yeah,
Beer. So that makes me think, is he can't be coming back, but like he could. And then I thought more. And I thought this is what you do with Hulk Hogan. If he has to, if you have to put him on TV, there's something in this deal that he made where he has to be on screen to do this advertising thing. This is what you do with him. You put him with American Made. Ultimate heat magnet.
yeah.
He is the ultimate great heel manager. He does the same promo
Mhm.
because it's not about the promo he does. It's literally just about him being there. And you already have a group that gets booed. And I feel like putting Hogan with this American made group elevates them to a level where you could have Chad Gable start to be with main event stars. And it makes sense because he's got the biggest main event star of all time in his
Yeah.
corner at Hulk Hogan. And it just works. Now it's funny you bring up LA, like the fact that that definitely didn't help. Where
Mhm.
it's a very blue state or
Mhm.
blue city,
Yeah.
and Hogan's there. I don't think this works anywhere. Like I think
No.
you go like I don't know. I think even if you're in a red state, maybe you get more 50-50, but I think people are just sick of Hogan. I think
Yeah.
people just don't like the shtick.
I think another point somebody brought up on Twitter was that like it that certainly was a part of something, but not everything, because the Undertaker got massive cheers, and the Undertaker is very vocal in this political season about where he
Exactly.
stood. So like I don't think that's everything, but certainly a factor.
Right. So I think if he I don't want to see him again. I think the best option is for him not to be on TV.
Mhm.
But if you have to have him on TV, I think just go in with it. Be like The Rock last year,
Yeah.
where like if it's not working, go the other way with it. And I think if they can look back at this and really have the foresight and capitalize off of him being such a heat magnet, because it was the loudest boo. There's no
Oh yeah.
bad guy who got booed as loud. And
That's
we even
Hogan.
had FU solo chants at the beginning of
Yeah.
the show, which I
Yeah.
was glad wasn't censored. But even he wasn't treated as badly as Hogan was.
Yeah.
So I think you can utilize this if you have to have him on TV, but overall, if you can avoid him being on screen.
I think that's a lovely idea from pro wrestling perspective. The one hole I'll poke into your theory, though, is that the whole idea of this partnership is to sell beer. And I don't think anybody's going to buy it if you pair him with like a hated, faction, like a heel faction. So I kind of think they're just like up Shit's Creek without a paddle.
I think here's what I'll say. I think it would be like with The Rock becoming the final boss. I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be more endearing if he went all in with him being booed than it would
Mm-hmm.
be if he pretended that people liked him. The one
Yeah.
thing that really made me laugh in this promo is like, you guys have stuck with me through thick and thin. Whoa. It's like just clearly like you said it was tone deaf. Like he
Yeah.
just wasn't paying attention. So it feels like if they did go that direction, at
Mm-hmm.
least it would be them listening to the crowd. And in
Mm-hmm.
that case, it could have like a reverse effect where people are like, okay, at least he's listening to us. Maybe I'll try some of this real American beer. I think
Yeah.
either way, this is a failure of a partnership. But if they have to have him on TV, you might as well go with what the crowd is doing.
You know what they could do? Turn Hogan heel again. Make NW Hollywood Hogan back. Do
Yeah,
something with
exactly.
that.
Do I think, but again, like Hollywood Hogan would feel like you're kind of pulling from the past. I think you could do a heel, real American Hogan. I think that's where I
Yeah.
think him paired with American Made,
Yeah.
it's like a perfect fit where you have like a heel version of what once was the super baby face of the
Yeah.
80s. I think it would be a fun little dynamic there.
Yeah. I love that idea from a wrestling perspective. I don't know how the business side would
Yeah. I don't
react.
think it's going to happen, but I was just,
Yeah.
that's my pitch to WWE if
Yeah.
they have to have him on TV.
No, I think he'd be great as a manager.
Yes, 100%.
you know, just have him come out there slinging beer like Logan Paul does with Prime. I guess there's an argument to be made there. Logan Paul's a heel, and they're
Right.
selling
And
his
he's,
drink.
yeah, exactly.
So, all right, there's a hey Logan Paul versus Hulk Hogan. Who's gonna sell the most?
Oh, yeah. He does his move. He does the Hogan Paul or whatever in his match. So,
Yeah, book
um,
it.
yeah, that's my like, I do think that is like, if someone from WWE is watching this, that's how you turn it around. So
Mhm.
just relay that
It's a
message.
great
That's my pitch.
idea. It's a great idea. Anything else before we talk about our main event and wrap up?
No, I think at this point I was kind of mostly down on the show leading into this main event. So
Mhm.
I do think this main event had a tough task to overcome because it was really going to, no matter what happened on the show, it was really going to be the main event that
Yeah,
people were going to it gives you an opportunity for the fans to leave home with like a good taste in them.
for sure. Well, we got to our main event. It's Seth Rollins and CM Punk for the first time ever? Question mark. Certainly the first time in WWE. This was brought to my attention that we didn't talk about on the episode last week. We were talking last week about how long it's been since Roman Reigns had a match on Raw. This was CM Punk's first match on Raw since 2014, I believe. Which I didn't even realize because I just assumed he had wrestled at some point in the last year plus he's been back, but no. First Raw match in over a decade for Mr. CM Punk.
Yeah, and I will say they did wrestle. I remember this clearly because he was doing that CM Punk Shield stuff. He did do a match with each member of the Shield
Mm,
in that feud. So there was a Seth Rollins CM Punk match, but it was definitely not even close
yeah,
to being on the level of what this match was as far as hype.
right.
This was more like a thing to carry a storyline with CM Punk and the Shield at the time. This one had so much more meaning, so much more context. And I did think Michael Cole did a phenomenal job trying to recap the history in like a short amount of time, talking about how Seth Rollins trained with Punk. Punk was blown away, but Rollins didn't have enough money, so he went back, kind of discovered himself, was
Mm,
compared to CM Punk. Ultimately was part of the Shield, which were Punk's mercenaries. Later on, Punk left. They even mentioned him going into MMA, other companies talking poorly, and then Rollins being the one to kind of carry WWE through tough times.
mm,
And I even saw like it's funny on my YouTube recommended that promo Rollins cut when he was initially turning heel in like 2019.
mm,
And they were in Chicago when he was doing that. And it was him in the middle of the ring with all of the people of Raw
mm,
around him, like after Survivor Series. And he was talking about like I tried to get him here, but he won't leave his desk in Los Angeles and come back. So
mm.
that's whatever. So that was a fun little callback I saw earlier today. But Cole did a great job, and I thought overall, do you want me to get into the details of this match?
Yeah,
I can
go
run
for it.
down this match. So they brawl on the outside to start. Good way to show like these two hate each other, their guts. Rollins keeps talking to the ref, like, don't count this out, putting the ref in a tough position. I'll save this conversation for another time because we've been talking a lot about this show, but there is something to talk about with referees' discretion
Mm,
and, being able, because like you have to do that on, when I do commentary, I always, and the ref is like kind of being loose with how
yeah.
he's treating the match. I always am like, well, it's the ref's discretion. He wants to make sure the fans get what they paid for, so he's not going to call the match. But there is an argument to be made about how, like, if you're at a sporting event and someone does something clearly against the rules, like, it doesn't matter what, like, if it's the Super Bowl or if it's the NBA Finals or the World Series, if someone breaks the rules, you got to call it. So there is an argument to be made, but I want to have that conversation at a later
Yeah.
point. Um, Went for finishers early. I like that they did that to establish like, all right, Rollins has the stomp, Punk has the GTS, but they
Mm,
both countered. To a new fan, I thought that was a good way of establishing what their moves are. And it did pay off when they hit each other's finishers for
mm,
near falls. I thought that was a fun little thing to have. And then it was funny how Rollins went for another GTS in the middle of this match instead of reverting to his stomp and ends up only getting a near fall out of it.
mm.
Rollins had a moment where he hit two pedigrees and then Punk kicked out of that. And then he did a buckle bomb and a stomp afterwards. And at that point, I was like, oh man, this could really be it. But when Rollins had him close to the ropes, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, Punk's gonna get the foot on the ropes. Punk hits two GTSs. I saw a lot of people online comparing this to the finish of All Out 2022. It's exactly how the match ended with Moxley. GTS, Moxley into the ropes, Rollins into the ropes, bounces off, lands on top of CM Punk. Punk gets back up, hits another GTS for the win. Cute little note. If they do end up doing Punk and Roman, it would be a great near fall spot if
Mm,
Punk hits the GTS and Roman falls on him like that, and everyone's like, oh shit, he's gonna do it to the Shield three times in a row, but then Roman kicks out.
mm.
Think that's a good little setup for that, but I did like that that was the end of the match here. Overall, great match and a great way to end Raw. I wish they put the post match on this episode of Raw where Punk talks about 46 is just a number. 1 through 30 is just a number. I'm going to the Royal Rumble. Going through, watch out, Cody, watch out. That would have been a good stamp on this, but I am glad that they did end on just a good match and
Yeah.
still had that segment to put up online later. So overall, thumbs up for the main event. What about you? What do you say?
I thought the main event was okay. It was definitely a classic WWE television match. I didn't think it was anything too special. Um, I think we get spoiled sometimes with the work rate of AEW, and it's hard to like jump back and forth between one and the other because they are really so different in the grand scheme of things. Like just the way that their matches are constructed, like WWE clearly like their match structure and the way they do things is like they're playing it. I don't want to say they're playing it safe because like at the end of the day they can get hurt doing anything. Like I'll get hurt if I do any of that stuff. But it's just so different when you come from like a different pace of like an AEW or like a New Japan or a PWG event versus the WWE style. It can kind of be something. It can leave something to be desired when you're used to watching that kind of stuff. But for what a WWE does, I thought it was good. Um, am I going to remember the match more than anything from the show? Probably not. Honestly, I think the most memorable thing from the show is going to be Hogan getting booed, in my opinion. But I thought it was fine. It didn't blow me away.
That's fair. I do think it doesn't help that with what we were talking about before, where like every match had this main event feel to
Yeah,
it, where they're kicking out of each other's finishers. It kind of
exactly.
then put this match in a bad position for like obviously the first time they hit each other's finishers, you're not thinking that's the end of the match.
Yeah,
Where I felt like that would have been a really cool near fall in a vacuum.
yeah.
So I can definitely understand that. I do think it was just good for like CM Punk to get the win. And then after him declaring himself for the Rumble, I do think he is one of those guys, as we discussed, who has a good chance at it. As we go through, I'm curious if it like maybe it's um if Roman does end up winning. If like I don't think you do Punk and Roman at Chamber, but it would be really fun if Punk's like, I'm using my favor to put your like I asked a favor from Paul. You won the Rumble. I want your title match. I'm
Mm,
gonna face you at Chamber for it. I don't think they do that though, because I think Punk Roman's Mania worthy.
yeah.
I wouldn't. I just think. I guess you could have Roman win and then Punk just calls in the favor, like, you know what? I didn't even need the Rumble. I just won a world title match. I got this favor from Paul. He's gonna get it done, and it's Punk Gunther at Chamber, which I think is
Mm,
more realistic. Punk wins, and then that's how you get to there. I do think though, if it does feel like the end of it, I don't know if they go back to Rollins Punk.
oh, I think there's more. I don't think maybe not immediately,
Not
but
immediately. No, there's definitely more, but I don't think it's interesting. They could go back to it. They probably will meet in the Rumble at some point. Maybe that's how they continue the feud is Rollins eliminates Punk from the Rumble, and
mm,
then that reignites Punk's hatred for Rollins because it seemed like the way they were phrasing it is Punk just wanted to move on from Rollins, but obviously need to get past him in order to
yeah,
do that. So it would be a great way for Rollins to have something over Punk to then reignite that feud. But I do like that there's a lot of avenues they can go for WrestleMania season.
yeah. If I had to put money on it right now, I would say that your top three matches at WrestleMania are Gunther and Rollins for the world title, Cody and Cena for the WWE Championship, and then Punk Roman in a story match.
Okay.
If I
I
had
don't
to
hate
guess,
that.
if I had to
I do
guess,
think I do think I do think Punk Roman does main event over a Gunther Seth Rollins.
I tend to agree with that.
Okay.
Night
But
one,
I just don't think I while I do think that I do think that doesn't do a lot for the world title. I would prefer if the world title was in a main event just to kind of establish it.
yeah,
But if that is the case, if those are the matches, then you kind of have to have Punk Roman at the main event.
yeah. I would think Punk Roman would main event night one,
Right.
and then have both world title matches on night two.
Right. Like last year's
Yeah,
WrestleMania. You could
yeah,
have Rollins Gunther open and
yeah,
Cena Cody close. I don't
yeah.
hate that, but again, I do wish that if they were trying to make this world title mean something, they put it in a main event.
No,
So
I
that's
agree with
why
that.
I would want if they did Punk Roman, I'd want it to be for the title somehow. But
Mhm.
clearly, I mean, I do think your pitch is more realistic where Gunther holds on to the title until WrestleMania and has like a formidable opponent to face him for that title.
Yeah. All righty, Will. What a night of wrestling. Any final thoughts on this episode of Monday Night Raw on its Netflix debut?
Yeah, as a wrestling fan, I thought actually there was a great tweet from this guy Ben Bishop. I don't know if you're familiar with him on Twitter. He's an indie wrestler and he makes a lot of fun parody videos
Mm,
about just the independent wrestling culture backstage that are really funny. But he was showing like the two different views from the wrestling fan watching
mm.
the Netflix debut and the casual fan watching the Netflix debut. And I related to both because it was funny. Like the wrestling fan was like, why is The Rock out of character? Like, why are they
Yeah,
kicking out of so many finishers? And the
yeah.
casual fan's like, ooh, Topanga's on. Or like, ooh, Macaulay
Yeah,
Culkin is on.
yeah.
So and they're like, this is a fun show. So I kind
Mm,
of understand, like, that was the most accurate takeaway for it is
yes.
like the wrestling fans always going to have a problem with whatever they see, but they're still going to tune in next week. If the
Yeah.
casual fan had fun and they're going to tune in next week, then I would say overall a win. But again, the wrestling fan side of me just sees that they could do a lot better in situations like this.
No, I completely agree, and I think that's a perfect way to sum it up. Um, the last thing, and this is we're kind of back. I'm backtracking a lot here, but I just thought of it. Did I have a Mandela effect moment? Was the real Liv supposed to be last woman standing, and like something happened?
Oh, you know what?
Like, did I
I
just get
might, now that
brainwashed?
you, well, it's funny because also there's supposed to be like I didn't even remember this, but people kept bringing it up. Like it was supposed to be New Day and Rey Mysterio and a mystery partner
Well, I don't even
at
remember
on
that
the
one.
show,
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, like I totally
mm,
forgot about it until after the show ended. And they're like, well, they got booted to next week, and they switched it to Chad
yeah,
Gable versus a mystery opponent.
yeah,
So there's definitely like I think they had grander plans for this show, but then realized we got to trim some of the fat. We got to just keep it to 3 hours.
yeah,
Let's hit the big things, have the big moments, and
yeah.
we'll do everything else next week.
Got it. So the question is, do we get another last woman standing match? Are we getting
Oh God,
one more?
yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe they.
Those
I have to look that up because that does make me think. Because now I'm thinking like there was a stipulation, right? Because but maybe they switched it last second.
yeah, they clearly just
Um,
changed the plans for timing.
right, yeah, because they
But
weren't going to be because last woman standing, you got a 10 count and
yeah,
it
spots
would have
and
been, yeah, it would have
it's a
been
30-minute
insane.
match
Yeah.
minimum. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy there because I was like, I could have sworn I thought this was not just a regular match, but
Right.
what do I know? So anyway, overall, you nailed it. Great show for the casual fan. For us wrestling fans, it was just another episode of Monday Night Raw with a lot of hype. Um, Next week, we got a couple matches announced. We got Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. We got Damian Priest and Finn Balor in a street fight. We'll see if that stipulation stands. We have Chad Gable versus a mystery opponent, but we widely expect it to be the debut of Pentagon Jr. TBD on whether or not he comes with the hype man Alex Abrahantes. We'll see about that. No, Will's shaking his head. He
Well,
says he
you would
has.
know more than I would, but
I
I'm just
wouldn't know. You
thinking,
don't think
no.
he's telling me? You think he's telling me what he's doing? I have
Yeah,
no idea.
I thought you guys were close.
That's true. We're
But
best
he's still
friends.
on TV with like Commander and stuff. So I
Yeah,
feel like it would be kind of a crazy switch up for him to be on.
he's
Oh
gonna
my
pull a
God.
Lex
It's
Luger.
like Pentagon's debuting and they're like, oh my God, Alex Abrahantes jumped ship.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah. So more action to come next week on Raw. We got SmackDown, and of course, we're now on the way to the Royal Rumble, which marks the start of the road to WrestleMania. So it's a great time to be tuning in. If this is your first episode, thanks for sticking with us. We know it was a long one. We will be back next week, and we will see you all next time.
Peace.